maybe you can expand on that and tell everyone what you do at RevenueCat.
No, no, but I will tell you that it's very, very funny when BDRs or salespeople obviously have these automated outreach things, and then they say, "Oh, Rick, I see you are VP of an assortment of stuff at Revenue." Right? The automation just blankly takes it over. Yeah, no, it's marketing, sales, and success. So everything but the code, really.
Super. All right. So before we jump into the main topic, quick reminder on questions. As always, these sessions are for all of you. We want them to be interactive. We want to make sure you get the most out of them. So if you have questions, please fire away. If you're listening on Livestorm, you can use the questions feature or the chat. If you're listening on X or LinkedIn or YouTube or anywhere else we're streaming this, then jump into the Discord and you can share your questions there as well, and we'll make sure we answer as many of them as possible. If you have just any general questions on Shipaton, don't put those in as well, and if we have time at the end, we can try and cover those too. Quick update, as we usually do, on Build in Public. So one of our categories this year is the Build in Public category. This is all around sharing your progress as you're building, iterating and sharing learnings and the things you're doing. So what we thought would be neat this week is each of us have picked out a highlight that we've seen from people building in public, and just to share a little bit about why we like it, shine a bit of a spotlight on the developers behind the ones we like. So I'll go first. My example, you can't really see it. The animation is pretty small on the slide, but this is from someone called Luca, and he is building, I guess it's like a voice-based reminder app. And I started following this when he posted his first video, because he was showing how ineffective using Siri for this kind of stuff is, saying, "Oh, hey, remind me on Tuesday that I have a workout class and that I need to buy ingredients for a meal I'm hosting on Thursday." And so that's the kind of problem he's trying to solve with his version. And he started with ChatGPT, then moved to Cursor, and he's been sharing the progress day by day. And day 8, which was today, this was posted. He took his latest version round, shared it with a friend, and got the friend to test it live. And the friend threw a ton of tasks at the app. I need to remind me to buy toilet paper, remind me to buy ingredients. And this version of the app struggled. It remembered to remind him to buy the toilet paper, which may be the most important task based on how you see it, but couldn't handle the rest of it. And just very cool to see the testing kind of happening live, and then Luca sharing what he's planning on doing to fix it. So really enjoying following the progress and seeing actually how quickly his app is developing and moving. So I would recommend going and checking out Luca's feed and seeing what he's up to. It's a good one. Perttu, is the other one on this screen your pick, or is it Rick's?
Yes, that's my pick. So an app called Form Buddy by Jose Saz Merino. I'm probably slaughtering that name, so please excuse me. But he's building an app that is basically an AI exercise form coach. And the reason why I picked it is the user interaction. So this actually, it's a tweet. I didn't get the animation here, but the user interactions and the animations are just very, very nice looking. So definitely worth going to check his Twitter. Actually, the app already has a Twitter account as well. So I guess there's gonna start to become stuff there as well. But the interactions are definitely something worth buying on, even stealing on. They're so good. So that's what I would do.
Encouraging full plagiarism here. Yeah.
No, I'm following the words of Steve Jobs that could artist copy and great artist steal. So go with that.
Good recovery. Okay, nice. And then Rick, this one's you, I think.
Yeah, this is me. It's Nikolai on YouTube, and I spotted Nikolai because he turned up in my shorts. He's building Avalingo. It's a language learning app. That wasn't so much what caught my eye. what caught my eye is that you can very clearly see his consistency starting to pay off, right? You can, because especially if you see the first couple of ones, he's getting like 10, 20 views or whatever. And he's getting very close to the 1,000 views mark on these shorts. And it's literally just consistency. And they are short, right? Like it's a short video. Usually he's walking in a forest somewhere, which I kind of like, right? It's a little different. Yeah, I would just I'd follow it, or I follow him. I'd experiment with formats, right? Shorts. Actually, on TikTok, the next time we should pull up somebody that's doing a thing on TikTok. There's a bunch of interesting Shipaton stuff happening on TikTok. Experiment with formats and join the post engagement boost channel in Discord.
Yeah.
Because there is a channel in Discord where a lot of these build in public folks post whatever they posted in public. Other people respond to it on whatever channel they're on. And as long as you return the favor, what happens is that everybody's reach increases by a ton. Super fun to see. For me, it makes it really, really easy to get like a quick overview of what's happening. I know it's just a snapshot. Not everybody's in the Discord channel, but everybody should be in the Discord channel.
Yeah, that's a very good plug for the Discord. I think that's beyond that, just being able to connect with other folks taking part, and then we have a good number of the RevenueCat team in there as well. So even if it's just troubleshooting or asking for help with any aspect of what you're building, it's a great place to do it. So yeah, definitely jump in there. Okie dokie. All right, final thing before we dive into the main topic. So just a plug, we talked about this on Tuesday. We have so many upcoming events, Shipaton events, a mixture of in-person and virtual events. You can see we've kind of gone global with this. We've got this is just the next 7 days worth of stuff happening across like North America, South America, Asia, lots of things going on. We have a dedicated events page hosted on River. So you can access that from the Shipaton website. You can sign up, search and filter based on location and date. So go check it out. There are more being added all the time. So you can find an event if you're interested in hanging out with some other participants in person. And then a special plug, I did this on Tuesday, and this is just an excuse to show this picture of Charlie more times because it will never get old. He is currently in Taiwan at the iPlayground, or about to be at iPlayground, and then an event in Seoul on Monday. So if you are at either of those events or in those areas and you'd like to meet with Charlie in person, then reach out directly to him. I know he's keen to connect with people in person, and he's got a ton of RevenueCat swag. I don't think he's got the boat with him. I don't know if the boat made it back from, this boat is from, actually, Rick, do you want to just very quickly, without going down too much of a rabbit hole, explain the backstory to the boat that Charlie is wearing in the picture?
I don't even remember how that started. I do remember that we thought it'd be funny, and then because this was at the vibe coding cafe we're doing in Tokyo, I actually brought my family to Tokyo because it was doing like an Asian trip, and they were hanging out in the Airbnb, and I asked like, can you make Charlie a giant cardboard boat? And then actually my wife and kids made this.
Yeah, it was impressive, like turnaround time as well. I think it was like it was a few hours, and then anyway, you can see that. The live stream is on YouTube somewhere. You can see more of Charlie in the boat. But anyway, if you're in Seoul or in Taipei, reach out and connect with him in person. Okay, that's everything for kind of intros. This is the topic we're going to dive into today. Sorry, this is all about what you should know for publishing on Google Play Store and the App Store. Perttu is going to run through some stuff to begin with, but as we said at the top, we want to make this interactive. So please ask questions as we're going through. We can interrupt at any point. And Perttu, I'll hand over to you.
All right. I'll share my screen just in a minute. I'll just find one article that I wanted to also show that I just remembered that I didn't include in any of the slides or not whatnot. But That's not a big thing. We're going to talk about it. All right. You should start seeing something, I guess. A slideshow?
Yeah. What you
Great.
need to know about app stores. I feel like we're on the right track.
That's the correct slide set. Yeah. So I'm gonna first just show like 3 slides with some key information that you need to know about the app stores, like pricing and whatnot, how those work, and so on. And then I'm gonna actually get a hands-on to show you what it looks like in app stores, or what it looks like to configure an app in App Store Connect and then Play Store Console, which you will learn soon more about. So in the Shipaton rule set, there is that your app needs to be published in either Apple App Store or Google Play. Nice to be either iOS app or Android app or macOS app. And for example, the iOS and Android app, iOS and macOS app, for those you need an Apple App Store account, which is also called the place where you manage that is called App Store Connect. And that's the dashboard I'm going to show you after this. The thing is that when you sign up for that, you have to pay $99, and that's for 1 year. So you have to keep paying for it every year if you want to keep your app published there. And that's just how it works. You can have it for yourself, so an individual account, or you can also have it for a company. In any case, it has to be a legal entity. So it has to be a real person owning the account or a real company owning the account. If you have a team in Shipaton, it might be worth considering like a company account for management purposes, but you can also do it in an individual account. Of course, that's a possibility as well. Google does have some limitations on what kind of apps can be published with the personal account, like for example, banking and I think healthcare apps are limited in some matters. And all of that is managed, of course, through App Store Connect. And then Google has a similar one, the Google Play developer account that you use to manage Google Play console. And if you think the $99 is a bit steep, you can consider releasing your app only for Google Play. That is also in line with the Shipaton rules, and that's only $25, and that's a one-time fee, so way cheaper than Apple in this case. Of course, included in both of these is a lot of APIs for the developers. Apple provides quite a lot of support also in the $99. If you need that, or a lot of support is, I guess, that's not really true, but at least some level of support, I would say. And similarly in the Google Play, you can have it as an individual or organization. And requirements in terms of like getting your app there is that for Apple, the review process is rather strict. So they look at the design, the functionality, the content. So your app can, for example, say that this is a beta app or anything like that. So Apple doesn't allow beta apps. They don't allow you to say that this feature coming soon or whatever. The app that you release needs to be fully ready. Unless you're doing like beta testing, then you should use the test flight, which is also included in the App Store Connect or App Store pricing. But otherwise, the app you release needs to be fully ready when it goes out to public. And to fully get everything done correctly, you should follow the App Store review guidelines. You can just Google that and find the ones. There are things about privacy and monetization and user experience that you need to follow. For example, your app can actually have lag or bugs. It will get rejected, and Apple will tell you just to fix those. And then there's Google. It used to be actually that Google was way quicker at reviewing and way more lenient. So you could actually find apps that didn't really work in Google Play, but this has actually changed in the last year, 2 years or so, and Google has become way more strict about this. They might have even gotten stricter than Apple in some cases. They might reject you, for example, if you have a screenshot that uses a very old model of an Android model, and they might even, I've noticed that they can even in those cases flag that it doesn't apply, the design doesn't apply to modern devices. And for them, they have these developer program policies that you need to follow. And then we're going to look at the pricing and distribution. So this is just like a really, really like shallow overview. But in both cases, you can determine in what countries you want the app to be available, and you can have different pricing levels for those. And that applies for both having money, having an actual price on your app. But in this case, since you need to add the RevenueCat SDK and use subscriptions or one-time purchases, you're mostly like should be interested in putting a free app that has monetization in the form of subscriptions, for example. And usually the cut is 70%, 30%. So Apple and Google both take 30% of every dollar that you make. You can apply if you're making less than $1 million a year. You can apply it. So you can apply for this small business change, which then allows you to get 85%, and Google and Apple only get 15%. The same also happens that if your subscription for users subscribe for more than a year, they also take smaller cut after the first year.
So that I'm just on that point. So that's not automatic. That like avoiding the 30%. If you're doing less than $1 million, that's something you have to specify.
You have to apply for it. Yeah. And it is easier if you have a company account. You can apply for individually as well, but usually at that point you have to show that you have like a private, I don't know what it's called, like a single person entity as a company to get it. But it is definitely doable, and I think you can get it for personal accounts, at least on Google as well. So they're trying to like help the small developers a bit, at least in that sense. But it's still like this is how you have to do it, and you have to use. For the monetization, you have to use Apple's in-app purchases and for Google, the Google Play Store subscriptions in order to do it. So they need a cut. But that's all the slides I have about that. I'm actually now going to start showing what, for example, App Store Connect looks like, unless there are some questions already at this point.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it might be worth tackling one of these questions because it's related to, you kind of touched on app review and that process. And I mean, it'd be interesting, first off, just to talk maybe about some of the main reasons why apps get rejected in your experience. But then there's this question, which is specifically around having a privacy policy and that requirement. And then this is actually about what data is being collected. If you have the RevenueCat SDK installed, what data is being collected, and therefore what needs to be included in the privacy policy. But yeah, maybe you could start with like some of the main reasons you see apps get rejected, and then we can maybe dive into that more specific question.
Yeah. So in both cases for Apple and Google, you have to like make this agreement that what data you're collecting from the users. RevenueCat by default doesn't really collect that much user or data that can be used to like distinguish between different users. But for example, email, if you decide to collect that is not automatically collected. That is one of those. And of course, user ID could technically be that. But when you just take RevenueCat SDK into use, we generate a user ID that is anonymous in the beginning, and then just you can technically use that for all the interactions, for example. And when it comes to, for example, recovering a purchase and whatnot, we use the default APIs on iOS and Android level. So those don't actually use through those, we don't get knowledge who is actually the one subscribing to it. And we don't see that data. But the amount of data, what you collect and what goes, for example, in the RevenueCat dashboard depends on you. So there is a way for you to add the data you want to show on the dashboard. And of course, if you're collecting that, then you should announce that in the privacy policy for both App Store and Play Store, depending which one you're using. So yeah, I think we might even have a guidance for this. I could check afterwards. I think we had a blog post at one point, at least, that answered some of the privacy policy stuff. And if not, then that would be something that I can definitely add to the documentation.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
We do have another question. It's slightly. I mean, let's just dive into it. So, you should be able to see it on the screen now. So, I've seen a number of folks struggling with the sequence of actions to take to add in-app purchases and/or subscriptions along with an app to the Apple App Store, because the two have to be added separately but submitted together. Do you have a guide link that covers that?
We have, I think we do have a guide that goes through, or actually the official documentation of RevenueCat goes through the process of like in what order you should do this. But I can touch upon this a bit while we set up like example apps in both App Store Connect and Google Play Console. But you should start first by developing your app. You can get a pretty far by just building the app first, and then signing up for the developer account that you need, either Google or Apple. Then creating the app itself there, uploading the first version of the app. It doesn't have to have the in-app purchases yet, but just uploading it there. Maybe if all your features are already there, you could even consider submitting it for review or for Google and Apple to see if it goes through. You don't have to release it yet, but at least then you know what it takes in order to publish it. And after that, you could move on to adding the RevenueCat SDK and actually adding the subscriptions. And I'm gonna touch up on like what the subscription management looks from the App Store Connect side. We have a pretty extensive documentation on how to do it on RevenueCat. And you can, for example, once your app is configured in App Store Connect, and you've also configured the app in RevenueCat dashboard and Google Play as well, if you're using that, you can actually create the subscriptions in the RevenueCat dashboard instead of going to the App Store Connect or Google Play to create those subscriptions. So if you go to the dashboard, you technically are doing it in the correct order if you have the app already there available.
Yeah.
But I'll mention that also and when I start showing this around.
Okay.
All right. So this here, you should be seeing an App Store Connect. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And if you're anything like me, if you've had the account for some years, when you go to the apps, you're going to see a bunch of apps that you've never released, but you've built. And this is, you need to build apps in order, for example, to do test flight releases. And test flight releases just means apps that you want to do like a beta distribution, so allow other people to test your app on their phone. But if you're actually interested in like creating a new app, you just go to new app, you select the platform. So for example, iOS, you have to give it a name. It has to be unique. If you write a name here that is already used by some other app by Duolingo, it won't allow you to move forward. So we're just going to call this a new test app number 2 or something like that. That probably is not a taken name. And you have to select the language. I hope this is big enough, by the way. It's like you can actually read what's happening on the screen, right?
Yeah, you can see it,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to just choose a bundle ID, and you get this bundle ID by uploading the first version of your app. You can do that, for example, through Xcode if you're doing an iOS build. There it's called archive and upload. Or you can, for example, use, if you saw the Expo webinar on Tuesday, you could technically use Expo launch to do this, to upload the first version of your app. But I have a bunch of different bundle IDs from different apps. I can select one that I've already created one app, for example, this one, and then I just need an SKU, which is unique ID for your app that is not visible to users. So this is for you to see, for you to use, and for Apple to use as a unique ID in some cases. So test view, for example, is gonna, and user access, I'm just gonna give full access, although this account doesn't have any other users than mine. And it will start creating that app. And now we have that. And on Google's case, before we get any further in that, it's a very similar thing. So you just select create new app, test the app number 2. You select the language. Well, this can be in UK. It's an app. Here you can decide that if it's a free or paid. But you have to take in consideration that once you've published, you can't change the free of charge app to be paid. So you can't put a pricing later on the app this doesn't include subscriptions, but if you, for example, if your app is free in the beginning and you decide that, okay, everyone's downloading this app, so from now on it's going to cost $1, that can be done on Google Play. I think Apple actually allows that, but Google doesn't. So you have to decide here. And for example, if you're using the subscriptions, you probably want the free account. And then you're just going to see that your app meets the developer program policy. So this usually means that you've already kind of developed the first version of your app, because otherwise you could not really meet these policies. And also that you accept the US export laws. And you actually have to click this even if you are not going to distribute your app in the US in order to create it. But similarly, then you create the app. And after some time, it hopefully goes to the created app. But while that's going on, let's go through how App Store Connect looks like. So on the top here, we have the distribution, we have test flight, and then we have something called the Xcode Cloud. We don't really care about the Xcode Cloud, but for test flight, that means beta testing. So if you want to do beta testing, you have to upload a build. So it actually says here, upload your build using one of the several tools, see upload tools. You can find Apple's documentation on how to get your app to the App Store by clicking that. And then you can, of course, create like internal testing groups or external testing groups to distribute your app. So you could easily also, if your app is already almost ready, just do test flight distribution for now before you actually release the app. So then how does distribution work? What do you need to fill in there? Well, first of all, you need screenshots, and they actually have to be either the 6.5 iPhone or the 6.9 iPhone. You don't have to upload both versions of screenshots. One is enough. If your iPhone is an iPhone, if your app is an iPhone app, if it's an iPad app, of course, you need the iPad screenshots. And then, of course, there's the Apple Watch. So, and the content of the screenshot has to match with what is actually happening in your app. So this can't be fully just marketing materials. There actually has to be screenshots of your app in use. Then there's a promotional text. This is also required. This could, for example, just say that using my use this app to like photos or whatever. So it's 170 characters, very slow, very small field. And the actual description field here is the one where you can fully like go into describing your app, like how you use it and what features it has. You have to fill all of these. Keyword section, the same thing. This is used in the search. So when you open App Store and start searching for something, users will use the keywords, or users will not use it. But if they search, for example, a productivity app, your keyword should be productivity as one. This field, important thing to notice here is that separate the keyword with commas. Don't use spaces. Every separate word is considered an individual word. So you can't, for example, write sentences here as keywords, but you can just use like single combined words to make everything work. And you can also have competitors' names here. So if you know that you're going against Twitch or something, you could technically mention the competitor here and show up in the search result when people are searching for Twitch. That is a very common hack, so to say, for people to do. And then you need to provide a support URL. So you actually have to have some kind of URL where people can see that, okay, this is how I can, for example, email you if something goes wrong. And you need to have a marketing URL. This one can be optional. So don't have to have a website, but you have to have a place where people can contact you when it comes to the app. And yeah, copyright and routing coverage file, these are not really needed. Copyright, you should put your name or the company name. That is needed, but the routing app coverage file is not needed. Other than that, you need to upload a build here, similar to this and this slide, and then you need to give app review information. So this means if your app is behind a password, requires a signing in order to use it, you have to create a test account or give your own individual username and password to Apple so that they can actually test the app before they release it. You can write some notes, for example, about the testing that, hey, sign it with this and try this feature or whatever, what could be relevant for them for test. And then you need to provide your contact information. You can also attach an attachment, for example, could be a video showing the features. For example, if your app requires a lot of setup before you can actually use it, or uses health data or whatever, you could show a video where that data is already there to help Apple do the review process. And then you can decide when this version is released. So as soon as first one is, of course, that you release this version manually. Second one is that automatically once Apple approves your app. And then third is that after a certain period of time. In most cases, you probably want the manual release of this app because it allows you to configure that. Let's say that you build your app, you release it, and you notice at some point that there's a bug that Apple didn't catch, for example, but you know that there is. At that point, you probably don't want the app to go out, but instead you just want to make a new release and upload that before releasing the version that has a bug. Other things you need to do, yes. You're gonna need to add a subtitle. You can change the setup 8 ratings here and also change the language and category of your app. So for example, is it business, books, or whatever? And you can have like 2 categories. There can be a primary category, there can be a secondary one. This is used to show the app in correct place in the App Store rankings. And then you need to add the app encryption documentation if your app uses the non-accept encryption. And this is a bit of a complex topic. So I suggest once you get to this stage, you just get to learn more and read if your app actually doesn't follow these guidelines. In most cases, your app most likely doesn't use any non-accept encryption. So you can just skip this part, but just make sure if that's something that you need to do. And of course, the App Store server notifications, that's something that RevenueCat needs when you configure it and similar to the App Store's app-specific shared password. And there's a bunch of fields. Basically, you have to go through all of these. So app privacy, for example, filling in what kind of things are needed. You need to have a privacy policy URL. So what tells URL, which tells your app like what data you're collecting and how users can, for example, ask their app to be deleted. Accessibility features, you can tell if you have those. And then like that's most of the stuff that you need to like fill in. Then the other parts here are more like when you start to monetize and add new features to your app. And most of these you don't necessarily ever have to touch during this hackathon, but what you do need to do is either take the in-app purchases or the subscriptions category. So in-app purchases is for consumables and non-consumable purchases that you can then configure in RevenueCat SDK as well, or RevenueCat dashboard as well. And subscriptions is of course for subscriptions. And when you're creating subscriptions, you need to create subscription groups and then the actual subscriptions. For this, we have documentation, so I'm not going to go through it. But it also requires a few steps. You need to show actual subscriptions. They need to have the correct information there. They need to have the pricing and everything before you can actually release the app. So you can't release an app which doesn't have subscriptions. Or you can release an app without subscriptions, but you can't release an app that has like subscriptions that are half completed. So you either have to delete them, remove them, or just complete them completely and then release, then send it to Apple for review, because they're going to also test the subscriptions if they work or not. Yeah, and then Google. Well, Google is a little bit more easier to follow because they have a clear structure on how you need to go through this. So first is to release your app for internal testing without review. And this is actually required. You can't move onwards without doing this. So if at this point, if you're building an app for Google Play Store, I suggest you take a look at this blog post written by Jai Wong about how to navigate the Google's 14-day testing rule. So during 14 days, you have to like have your app tested so that it doesn't delay the submission, or so that if your app is untested, Google will not approve it. So take a look at this before, like way before Shipaton is coming to an end, and actually like you should probably already take a look at it now, because it's very likely that once you've tested the app, you've gotten the 12 testers for 14 consecutive days, you might still come up that Apple or Google, in this case Google, they reject your app for some reason. So better to get started with soon with Apple and Google reviewing your app. Yeah.
That's another good plug for the for joining the Discord, right? Because if you need to find testers, great place to find. I think we actually have a channel dedicated for that. I forget, but another plug for the Discord if you're needing to find people to help with that stage.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, make use of other Shipaton participants to test your app, so that it doesn't that doesn't end up being the reason why you couldn't get your app out because Google didn't think you had enough testers. But yeah, Google is going to ask much of the same questions. So if you look at the tasks included here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So provide information about your app and set up store listing. There's going to be like, you're going to need the privacy policy. You're going to need the app access, like what age and whatnot has like access to it. Does your app have ads? Who is the target audience? Data safety, government of apps. Is it a health app? You have to list all of those. And then you have to go also fill the store listing. And most of here are the same thing. So you have a short description and full description. You need to have app icon. Apple doesn't require that, but Google does. You need to have a feature graphic, and you need to have screenshots, phone screenshots in this case of the app or tablet if you have. These seem to be also required, but I think you can also actually go on without having a 10-inch tablet screenshot. But if you need to do that, just build your app in an Android emulator and then they're usually mostly enough. And yeah, most of it is the same as what Apple requires. And yeah, and then you can of course configure the testing tracks so that you can have a open beta, closed beta. You can have even an alpha testing so that it's in App Store and anyone can download it. I think it might be called beta as well, but in any case, it shows up this as like a beta app in the Play Store, and users can test it, but it's not like an actual full release yet. And that's pretty much what you need to do. So you need to do like a lot of information in both of these cases, but you only have to do it once. So once you've filled up all the information, you can of course go back to adding the app information. You can extend, you can add more stuff, or actually what I'm looking for is this actually. Yeah, so you can update the screenshots every time you make a new release, the promotional text and whatnot. You can always make edits to those. But when it comes to, for example, privacy and whatnot, you only have to do it once unless those things change. And then you no longer have to go back to it. That's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Quick, just that's it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Just a quick question on the Google the 14-day testing requirement piece. So Andy was asking, or just to confirm that if you have an organization account versus individual, does that there's no delay? Is there a delay or is there no delay?
I think there's still a delay in organization as well, that you can't fully circumvent it. But I will actually have to check that. Okay. I'm not sure. I'll get back to you in just in a minute.
Okay, TBD. And then just generally on the timers, because that's probably one of the things we see in the Discord a lot and asked is about timings, and particularly with Shipaton, like submissions, the window closes on the 30th of September. You want to get the app published and live before then. How long would you say people need to be giving for this process?
At least 2 weeks, I would say. So like Apple and Google both take especially for the first release of the app, it can take anything from few hours to few days for them to approve your app, or even to review it. Like that's the thing. Like it can, in some cases, Google might look at the app for almost a week before they reject it, and then you're in a situation that now I need to make the changes that they requested and submit it again. And sometimes it might be that they just check that, okay, you did those changes, so good to go. But it might also be that they come up with new requirements. That is also very common, that they notice after some amount of review after reviewing it for 5 days that, hey, you also need to fix these and these things. So the sooner you start doing the review process with Apple and Google, and actually doing it so that you fix the things that they ask you, the better. So don't just keep submitting the same app with the same problems. Because, for example, from my personal experience, I once did that with Google, that I just I fixed few of the issues and they came up with new ones. And eventually, after 3 rounds, they decided that I'm wasting their time and rejected the whole app. And I had to upload a completely new bundle ID and everything in order to continue. I checked, and apparently, if your organization account for Google Play Store is approved, as soon as that is approved, you can start uploading your app. So it is only for the personal accounts that you have to do the 14-day testing. That's at least one source said that. So I'm guessing they expect 14-day testing, actual testers for the app, because there's a bit of a higher chance that it's spam if it's an individual user uploading their app.
Yeah. And then I guess on the, you went through both of those processes, and there's multiple steps, lots of places you could potentially fall down. But where would you say, and Rick, maybe you have some examples of this, where would you say most people fall foul of the process? Do you think there are any bits you should pay particular attention to, or things that trip people up most often?
Yeah, I would say that try to release your first version of your app without the in-app purchases, just to see that it's not the features or anything that gets blocked. Because in-app purchases, they might end up having, there can be multitude of problems. For example, if you forget to attach a privacy policy or some terms of service, that actually, if you use RevenueCat paywalls, there's usually a button ready-made for those. But if you're being the paywall yourself, you might forget to do that. You might then send your app, and Apple rejects it because of that. So you don't want to be fighting 2 battles at the same time. Instead, just try to get the first version of the app approved by Apple. You don't have to release it. As said, you can configure it so that release it manually. Once it goes through, then you just continue building a new set of features, make a new build, upload that, and then send that for review, so that you always have a version of the app that you could technically send out because it's been approved. That's what you should aim for. Because then, if you run out of time towards Shipaton, like we have a month ago, and if you're thinking okay, this app is going to be so good when it goes out, so I'm just going to wait until the last day before I ship it, don't do that. It's very likely that you'll get rejected for some. It could be even a random issue. It could be a bug that only shows up on Apple's devices or something like that, because those things have definitely happened before.
Yeah.
Maybe to also pull in Heidi. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. Heidi's question in the questions, where he asks if using Paddle to handle payments for subscriptions is going to get him rejected. The answer to that is yes. and that's a very, very common mistake. And every once in a while, somebody slips through. I've literally had apps. I've talked to apps that have been around for a year. I've been earning money through Paddle or Stripe for a year. And then some update, suddenly somebody clocks the fact that they're not using in-app purchases, and they're immediately pulled. Because the TLDR, you need to use in-app purchases. It's a complex topic now, where in some markets, in some circumstances, you can use something else as well, but you always, always, always also use in-app purchases. So by default, especially if you're building a new thing, just do in-app purchases. Don't worry about optimizing for the fee that you're going to pay, because once you start doing web purchases, conversions are going to be lower. You're going to have refunds that are going to be very expensive. There's all kinds of stuff. Just do in-app purchases. So that happens quite a lot, right? People being confused confused by that. And especially on the Apple side, when they test your app, the environment they use to do that testing is notoriously flaky, right? So your app can be rejected for, a thing that you know for sure isn't working on the tester's device. And then literally what you do is you re-roll, right? You re-roll. And if you get caught in this loop, which happens sometimes, right, where somebody rejects you and you're like, no, that works, and they're like, no, it doesn't work. You go back and forward. Unlisted YouTube video. So record like a screen grab. Ideally, do a little talking face thing, right, where you explain what is actually happening. Have it as an unlisted YouTube video. Insert the URL. They're gonna watch the video. It's gonna save you a ton of time.
Yeah. Just to give you an example how strict and detail oriented Apple, for example, is in the review process. I once worked on a health app that did not have in-app purchases. Technically, like, it was behind like an authentication. You had to log in to use the app, and it had been in the App Store for 2 years. The way it made money was that you would buy these blood glucose sensors as a subscription. So you were buying a physical thing. And we had thought that that meant that we don't then have to pay anything for Apple because we're selling a physical thing. But Apple actually, in one of the reviews, they checked the website of the app and they went through the whole purchase process. And in one part of the purchase process, it mentioned that in addition to the sensors, you get access to the app. And they had taken a screenshot of that and they sent us that and said that this actually means that your app is providing digital services behind payments that are done through web. And you now need to offer also an in-app purchase option. And that then meant that we had to, before we could make any new releases to the app, we actually had to implement in-app purchases in order to get through the review process. So they found it one part of the copy on the website that said that includes access to the app, and that was enough for them to determine that this app requires in-app purchases to function. So they do go like through everything that you have there in the app or in the App Store Connect.
Okay, I'm just checking through our Discord. So we actually have a couple of questions here about what happens like next. So that point, so at the point at which you get rejected, what does the process look like then? How much information will Apple, Google provide to you? How quickly can you like resubmit? And then how quickly would they either say yes or no again?
Yeah. This depends a bit if the reason why they reject you isn't something you added in like App Store Connect or Play Store Console. So for example, let's say that you put some screenshots there, but they're outdated or they don't like show the features of the app or whatever. Let's say that you just put like marketing images that show people using a phone and being happy about it and list the features. If it doesn't show the app, it will get rejected. In that case, you can just update those assets and send it to review immediately in both cases. But if they actually come across some bugs or other problems, they will usually list out the reasons why they've rejected your app. And they will actually point out the different, like their developer policies that, hey, you're breaking this policy with this release, or this thing, this copy in your app is called, for example, saying that it's beta and we don't allow apps that are like unfinished in App Store or Play Store. You need to fix those. So in that case, you have to actually make a new build and submit that before you can release or before you can send it to review process again. And then you just wait. It might actually, if it's a single thing, it might be that it takes like some cases just like 15 minutes and they're like, okay, approved, because it was just missing that small crucial part. But in some cases, it might be that the person who reviewed the app changes. They go through what was flagged by the previous reviewer, and then they come up with their reasons why the app should still be rejected, which could be completely different. So now you end up fixing another set of issues. So it really differs. And sometimes if you're making just a small bug fix to the app store, to the app, and submitting that, some reviewer could notice something that no one else has noticed before and reject you. They won't pull the app that you've already released from App Store, but before you can make any new releases, you have to address those issues before you can submit new versions.
Yeah. I was just reading Andy's comment in the chat. So he's saying that he was rejected under the fraud and objectionable content clause because What's New said no longer prompts for screen recording, and he's saying that because video recording no longer used ReplayKit, and so the permission request no longer appeared. And the reviewer accused Andy of pretending to offer screen recording but not having any such feature. So be careful about your descriptions. So it's funny. I feel like just based on the chat, I mean, people are like scarred by the app review process.
It is. It has been very, very cruel. I would say this still is, but at times you also notice some very weird apps getting through with so many problems, or even just like outright being spam or harmful apps getting just through Apple's review, which lets you to wonder that who actually ended up reviewing that, because people have gotten rejected for less.
Awesome. Okay. I'm not seeing any more questions on Discord. Anyone that's on Livestorm or the other streams, if you have any other final questions, please send them over. But given we're kind of coming close to time, Rick, Perttu, any other bits, any other little bits of wisdom you want to share, or bits from your experience that we can tell everyone?
Well, I can't emphasize this enough that submit your app now and potentially even release it. There was a good tweet that someone shared. I think it was in RevenueCat Slack, that if you think you're launching too early, remember that Google launched Google Maps without Europe included. So your attitude should be similar, that if it's missing that crucial feature, the feature that you think is crucial, just ship it already. It's not gonna have probably not gonna have any bad side effects, and you can just launch again after that. You can continue launching until your apps becomes a big thing.
Yeah, and maybe to connect to that, it's a callback to when we did this about ideation and learning from your competitors. The App Store and sending it to the people that you thought were going to download it, right? Your target audience is going to be way more useful than whatever other thing you can do to build the best possible app, right? You want to get apps, when done right, apps are not a product. Apps are a process, right? And this is just the start. So ship it, get it into the hands of people, gather feedback, make it better, get more users, make more than $2,500 a month, pay us that.
Yeah, that's the most important lesson.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right, super. Well, maybe we can wrap it up there. So thank you, Perttu. Super helpful. I appreciate you running through all of that. And Rick, thank you for jumping on and joining as well. And then also thank you to everybody in the chat, Grant and Andy. Appreciate you jumping in and sharing your experiences as well. It's helpful for everybody to hear them. So we are almost. Are we at the halfway mark? Can we say that yet? I don't think we can quite say, but we are almost at the halfway mark for Shipaton. So submissions. Oh, Rick, you want to jump in?
Yeah. So I think one thing to keep in mind is that we're almost at the halfway mark of Shipaton. Last year, hadn't even started yet, right?
No.
We have double the time. Last year, people built and shipped things in less than a month, right?
Yeah.
So however far behind you think you are, you still have more than enough time, right? You still have more than enough time. So yeah, don't give up. Keep building, keep shipping.
Yeah, keep going. Look, follow that build in public hashtag, and you will see people that are just starting. And the amount of shipping is incredible. But yeah, to Rick's point, loads of time left. Loads more webinars to come as well. You can see the full schedule on shipaton.com/, it's live or live stream. You'll see it on there. Next Tuesday, just a plug for next Tuesdays, because the last one that Perttu and I are hosting, we might not be trusted to do anymore. Next Tuesdays is with Paddle. So we've had a few questions in the last few sessions about Paddle and about app to web and utilizing the web. That's a great session to join if that's something you're thinking about. So if that's on your radar, and you're thinking of leveraging Paddle or other web stuff, then make sure you don't miss Tuesday's session. But yeah, I think with that we'll oh wait, do we have time? Yes, 2 minutes left. We have two quick questions. Perttu, if I upload an app on Play Store for Shipaton, then after how much time will we get to upload an app for iOS as well?
You can do that at the same time. Like, nothing's stopping you from uploading at the same time to those stores. Shipaton technically only requires for you to ship one of the stores, but especially if you're aiming for growing the app, definitely if you have the app ready for both platforms and publish them in both as soon as possible. It doesn't matter in terms of the rules of Shipaton.
Yeah, super. And then exploring other ways. Is it possible to move from an individual to an organization account in Google Play Console? I feel like that is possible. You probably have to create another account and port stuff across, but I feel like that.
You can definitely move apps from individual account to organizational in both, actually. And changing the account type, I don't think that's possible. It might be possible if you contact Google that, hey, we would like to do this kind of thing, but they will probably still in that case just ask you to create a new organization account and guide you through moving the apps from one account to another. And the same applies for the Apple as well.
Yeah, perfect. All right, I think that's all the questions. We're at the top of the hour, so we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much, everyone. Yep. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Perttu. We'll see you all soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks. Bye.